I've been gluten-free for about just over 2 years now. I first became aware of the fact that I had an intolerance was because of a nutritionist who worked at my previous rugby club, London Irish. We obviously had to fill in a nutritional questionnaire and a well-being sort of questionnaire of how he felt, and with some of the results that I gave in, it made him want to think more about investigating maybe if I had a sort of an intolerance or an allergy to something I was eating. And the main areas revolved around game day, and a lot of the time I'd feel quite lethargic and tired, and in the same time I'd be sick sometimes, and I initially used to contribute that to nerves and think that that was just how I reacted in those situations. But after him suggesting I have sort of an intolerance or an allergy test, as he called it, it came back that I was severely intolerant to both wheat and dairy, and since following preceding that I've managed to cut them out of my diet and then felt the benefits from it. I found it quite daunting, thinking, running through the list of things that that I eat, thinking, oh my God, what am I going to eat? What am I going to do? Da, da, da. But as I found, the more that I researched into it and put a bit more time and effort into seeing what sort of substitutes there were, I realised, it was manageable, and that there's enough sort of, substitutes out there and alternatives, especially in the gluten-free department, that made the change not as dramatic as I first thought. I think personally for me, I went down to the local supermarket and was able to see a lot of places have free from sections, and from there started to look at what was available, what options I could have, and then go around there. I didn't from day one go there and buy the whole gluten-free or dairy-free range or whatever. I just went down there, bought a few bits and pieces to sort of gradually incorporate into my diet, and just look at what other options I had and alternatives, and until I was in an informed point of view to sort of decide what I wanted to buy, and also with that the internet's a pretty good option as well. Eating out is sometimes it's hit and miss. Some places cater for gluten-free very well, and other places don't. And so I think I tend to try and go to the places that do have a selection or a menu or an option for someone who's gluten-free. And if I do go somewhere, I've just become very accustomed to eating around it, because I think that gluten-free is obviously becoming more and more popular in the UK, but there's a massive room for it to still improve. My dining experience with my family and friends, I'd say if anything has been affected positively since, changing to sort of a gluten-free lifestyle. I think, initially living at home, last year, my mum and dad were massive at, accommodating sort of my dietary requirements and finding ways of making my favourite foods that, that fit that. And then secondly, now being at Northampton Saints, I live with 5 other guys that I play with for the team, and we all take turns making dinner for each other and cooking for each other, and I'm very fortunate that they're considerate enough to make all the meals sort of gluten and dairy free to my requirements. And so and I do the same when I cook, and I think if anything it's improved my sort of dining experiences with his friends and family. Yeah, when it comes to cooking, I have a few gluten-free sort of recipes that I like to cook for family or friends, and I think a lot of them come from my parents and their help of adapting some of my favourite foods and finding sort of gluten-free alternatives to do it. So I'd say I like to make pork steak in like a marinara sauce, cook them in the tomato sauce and have the pork actually cook in the sauce to flavour the sauce, and and to soften the meat, and then I'll cook a gluten-free pasta with it, and some vegetables on the side, and then a lot of the time the next day I'll take the leftover sauce and I'll make gluten-free chicken parmesan or something like that, which is obviously take the chicken breast, lightly bread it in gluten-free breadcrumbs. A lot of times I use my sort of Newburn Bakehouse bread and chop it up in the food processor, so bread it that way, sear it in a pan, then eventually put the sauce on top, put some buffalo mozzarella on top, and then put that in the oven and let that cook, and then in 10-15 minutes you've got that with either broccoli or even leftover pasta. I can make another pasta for the lads as well, so those are my two go-tos at the moment.